Eurovision fans travelling to Liverpool for the final will face severe disruption today as ASLEF train drivers go on strike over pay.
It's been claimed the union has targeted key events, including this weekend's Eurovision, the FA Cup final and Beyoncé's concert in London. ASLEF's General Secretary Mick Whelan joins us now live from the picket line in Manchester. Mick Whelan, thanks for joining us this morning. Huge disruption because of these strikes.
Good morning.
And that is your intention, of course. However, I suspect you'll probably deny that you targeted these events. But can I ask you a very simple question? When you came up with these dates, did you know and were you aware that Eurovision was taking place this weekend? When you've come up with the dates for June the 3rd, were you even aware that the FA Cup final was taking place that weekend?
We're aware that whenever we take any form of action, there's an event or impacts somebody's life every day. But the timetable for this was arranged around our reaction to the non-deal that was put on the table. And under the Tory legislation, we have to give 14 days' notice. And the first day that we could immediately react to after the insult that we had was today. It wasn't about Eurovision, it was about the first available date. The subsequent dates then are based upon the patterns and the rest day working patterns of our members, trying not to hit the same people on strike days twice. So there's no day, whether it be Monday, Friday, Saturday or Sunday, where there isn't an event in this country. But what we do is based on the needs of our members.
But what would you say to those people who, you know, they want to get to Eurovision, they want some joy in their lives, they want to get there, it's a very important event. I mean, the FA Cup final, that is two Manchester teams trying to get down to London in June. I mean, what would you say to those people who you know, have saved money, they've bought their tickets, they want to go, we're in a cost of living crisis and you're spoiling it for them?
We're 4 years into this, 4 years without a pay rise. The people behind me don't want to be on strike. They don't want to be losing money. They have families. They've got people who want to go to Eurovision. These are the supporters from Manchester that also want to go to that cup final. But strange, isn't it, that nobody kicked up last year when Network Rail closed the West Coast down to London when there were teams from North West in the final last year. Apparently, if a trade union dares stand up for itself against a government that's interfering in its free collective bargaining, we're the villains. Can you tell me what else we can do? Would you be talking to me this morning if we weren't on strike? Would you be talking about the needs of my members today if we weren't doing what we're doing at this moment in time? We're in a point in time where we have no choice but other to articulate the voice of our members because of the actions of people who employ us.
This is a battle, isn't it, between you and those you're trying to convince, and it's a battle that needs the public on side. Does it worry you that you might lose their sympathy, particularly when you compare it with a group like the nurses? You know, the median salary for a train driver is £59,000 compared for £31,000 for a nurse. And nurses, some of the nurses groups have reached settlements. Are you worried that people will think, well, hang on a minute, that's a good whack?
Well, they might think it's a good whack. But also, I would argue you don't pay nurses enough. I'd argue you don't pay firefighters enough. I'd argue you don't pay all public service enough. And when we've had the argument before that if we didn't take a pay rise, would they give it to the nurses and the firefighters, those politics of envy arguments go out the window. I stand on those platforms with the nurses and the other people out there. And at this moment in time, because there are so many sectors out, the health service, the teachers, the civil servants, all fighting for a cost of living increase, we actually do have the support of other workers in all areas.
You do, and the polls say that you have that support. I suppose there are other groups, for instance, those in the private sector, those that are self-employed, who also haven't had a pay rise, in fact, have seen their earnings go down, as you argue yours do, and they don't have that option. And they're the ones that are sometimes bearing the brunt of the strike action.
Well, that's the intriguing thing about this dispute, isn't it? Because we work in the private sector. We work for the Abelios and First Groups of this world, who are declaring hundreds of millions of pounds in profits and paying dividends, yet they're not paying their workers a pay rise because the government's interfering in the process. So we find ourselves in a really difficult situation where the people that we work for are making money hand over fist, are no longer penalised for not running trains, don't care about their brand image, and because all the money's going to the Treasury, even though footfall's back over 90%, no one's going to give the workers in the industry a decent go.
Can we just quickly talk about the Trans-Pennine Express? Yesterday it was announced by the government that it's going to be nationalised. There's been many issues with that train service, very important train service across the north of England. One of the issues is that your members refusing to take on paid overtime. Unpaid overtime. How much responsibility should you take for what's happened at Transparent Express, do you think?
Well, I take no responsibility for the ineptitude and bad faith of the bad actors in TPE or the people that appointed them. And TPE lost their rest day working because they refused to honour the agreement that we had on it in December 2021. They lost their rest day agreement because they wouldn't pay the agreed rate we previously agreed with them. We were looking for it to be dynamic with inflation or the pay rises we haven't had in the last 4 years. Also, there's a separate dispute in TPE because they smash our agreements on a daily basis and only operate in bad faith. So I have no sympathy for TPE or the people that appointed them. And also, if you actually look at the minister's announcement, he's saying he's only nationalising it until he can privatise it again. So we're going to get more bad actors in future, possibly.
OK.
OK, well, we are talking to the Rail Minister, Hugh Merriman, a little bit later on this half hour, so we'll put those thoughts to him too.
Thank you, Mick Whelan. Time now.
Could you add one little thing to him as well?
Oh, go on. Yeah, go on.
Well, I saw him in an interview earlier saying that we refuse to work overtime, refuse to work Sundays. I'm quite sure we've got agreed establishment calculators in every company that's meant to cover succession planning, training, whatever. So quite clearly the Minister does know what he's talking about. But thank you for listening.
OK, we will put that to him. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Mick.